Hey kitty cats and kittens, my name is Erica. Welcome to my studio. Well, hello everybody, welcome back. Today I am making this very cool San Francisco 49ers themed tumbler, and this is one of several items that it's going to go in a raffle basket to benefit my daughter's high school band. Last week I showed you how I made the set of 4 coasters and the trinket tray that went with this. And this week I'm showing you the tumbler. This is a 20-ounce sublimation tumbler from Stainless Steel Depot, and I decided to base paint this with red acrylic paint. It does take a couple of coats to get it fairly even, but I use my heat gun in between to help those dry. This is going to be a mica powder based tumbler, and I actually really like this method of applying mica powder as the base. I think I'll do this more frequently. I didn't want it to be full glitter on the off chance that whoever got this didn't want all of that bling. So I'm using gold glitter, red pigment, gold mica, and red glitter. If you like this glitter, please use my code at glitterheartco.com. It will save you 10%. As always, I will have the materials I've used listed down below in the description. And I'm using Designer Epoxy's Red Pearl pigment for the base color. I'm just mixing these up now. I used a total of 40 milliliters of resin. The majority of that was actually for the base color, and I didn't even use all of it. I really like these Designer Epoxy pigments. They are highly pigmented and really bright. So yeah, this method of applying a mica powder base really would only work if you're doing a solid color. Since epoxy is fluid, I would worry it would blend together. And speaking of epoxy, just for any of those who haven't done tumblers, you do want to make sure you are using an epoxy that is specifically designed for tumbler making. It's a more viscous epoxy, and that is how you avoid things like fish eyes and areas where the resin will repel. If you try to use a thinner epoxy, it isn't going to work very well. Ask me how I know that. I may have made that mistake a time or two. I love that subtle shimmer. Here I am, popping bubbles. Since I'm doing a diagonal swirl pattern and I am right-handed, I want to make sure that my cup is turning counterclockwise while I apply this. After watching my tumbler turner for a while, I realized that the wobble that you see in the rotation is partly because the turner arm is actually making that wobble. I don't know what I could possibly do to fix that, but it hasn't been a huge issue thus far, thank goodness. So I go through and I apply these diagonal stripes of the different materials I'm using, and I'll do a little bit at first, then I go back in and infill where I feel like I have some emptier spots or spots where I want a certain color to be placed. I always start out with just a little and work my way up. You can always add more, and you can take it off, but it's kind of hard to do, so I prefer to avoid that if at all possible. I do end up dragging that little tool through the stripes that I've made. I also end up using my finger at times just to spread it out a little. Here I'm using my heat gun as well. And I don't want them to be really compact stripes. I want them to be a little more fluid looking. So there's several methods you can use to do this, but the easiest I have found is just to go through with my finger, as long as I'm not dragging things too much. Just be aware that anytime you put your finger or a silicone tool or something through it to drag through, you might be creating bubbles again. So you'll want to go through with your torch or your heat gun or whatever method you're using one more time after that. And now it's time to apply my UV DTF decal. I created these designs and uploaded them to a company that will print out UV DTFs for you and send them to you. And I used one of these several tumblers ago and had quite an issue with the top carrier sheet leaving adhesive around the outside of the decal. So now, to be safe, I cut them very close to the decal themselves. That way I don't really have any extra carrier sheet to leave any adhesive. I do leave a little flap there though, because you do need to take off that top carrier sheet. Otherwise you will have resin repelling and it won't sit properly and it will just be a hot mess. Since these can't be repositioned without essentially cracking and breaking them, I spend way too long trying to find the right spot. I took forever to do this.
2,000 years later.
I do eventually decide I like where it is though, so I have cut the backing off of one tiny little edge to allow me to stick it down once I like where it is, and then I apply this using the hinge method. And I'm just showing you that I'm using the softer felt lined edge of this squeegee to apply this. I'm kind of gun shy after the incident with the extra adhesive, so I'm a little too gentle while applying it. I don't press down quite enough. And so unfortunately this does end up with a whole bunch of air bubbles underneath it. And you can kind of see some on the S right there. So I'm using they call it a pin pen. It's like a pen weeding tool. It's got a very, very fine needle tip to it. By poking the air bubbles, it allows me to press the air out, and I do get it taken care of. Now, I did end up accidentally cracking it a little bit, and I wasn't sure how to fix that. But as it turns out, this rainbow alcohol ink did the trick. I love this stuff. I would wear it if I could. Seriously, glitter is life. Part of what this alcohol ink does is it provides an extra layer of sparkle, which is always a good thing in my book, but it also helps to camouflage any oopsies that you might end up making. And so I typically will do this in my final layers of resin on a tumbler. This tumbler gets 2 final coats of epoxy with the Rainbow Sparkle alcohol ink from Marabou, and then she's all done. And here is the tumbler with the coasters and the trinket tray. Again, if you haven't watched that video, go back. That's last Saturday's video. This set together with 2 ceramic mugs on which I sublimated the same 49ers logo made the raffle basket. And I think the person who won it really liked it. She seemed pretty pleased, and I was pleased that she was happy. Tune in next Saturday to see the San Francisco Giants tumbler being made. Now that tumbler I definitely wanted to keep. I hope you like how all of this turned out. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, my kitchen cats and kittens, and I'll see you soon.